A bone. Small, broken, nearly 800,000 years old. When it was first discovered, people assumed it was an animal bone, just the leftover remains of a hunt. But when it was taken to the lab, when the cut marks on it were examined under a microscope, the researchers stopped. The marks were exactly like the ones found on animal bone, but the bone wasn't from an animal. The bone was human. And those cut marks, they had been made by another human's hand. We usually think cannibalism means madness, perversion, something outside the bounds of civilization. We assume it was the exception, the act of some isolated madman, the result of some horrific accident. But what archaeology tells us is a completely different story. Cannibalism was not an exception in human history. It was a pattern, an event that repeated itself across different continents in different eras for different reasons, but the same act. And the deeper you go into this truth, the more one question forms. Those we call our ancestors, how much were they actually like us? In a cave in Spain called Atapuerca, researchers found similar cut marks on human fossils nearly 800,000 years old. The bones had been broken using the exact same technique ancient humans used to extract bone marrow from animals. This wasn't an isolated incident. This pattern has appeared again and again. France, Croatia, South Africa, spread across hundreds of thousands of years of the Homo lineage's history. And here the first terrifying question emerges. If this happened so many times, was it ever really a deviation? Or was it a natural part of our species' existence? A truth we simply don't want to hear. In 2016, a group of researchers noticed something unusual. They found a mutation in the human genome that makes the body resistant to a particular protein, one that can form in the body from eating brain tissue. This mutation didn't appear by accident. It evolved. This means, at some point, such a massive portion of the human population ate human brains so frequently that nature itself was forced to build a defense against it. Think about that for a moment. This happened so often that it left a permanent mark in our DNA. We don't just carry this history. Our bodies are still built to fight against it. We easily assume cannibalism must mean famine, lack of food, a last resort for survival. And yes, that has happened sometimes. Shipwrecks, sieges, expedition teams trapped in ice. Hunger has pushed humans to limits that are hard to imagine. But when anthropologists dug deeper, they found that most cases had nothing to do with famine. These were rituals, competition, methods of mourning, ways of humiliating an enemy. Sometimes, an expression of the deepest respect. In some cultures, a small portion of a deceased relative's body was consumed because they believed this way the dead person's spirit would continue living within the family. This wasn't horror to them, it was love. And this is where the real discomfort begins. Because if the exact same act, the exact same physical act, can be brutality in one context and the deepest expression of reverence in another, then where does morality actually live? In the act itself or in its meaning? In some ancient societies, certain groups in the Amazon or on specific Pacific islands, parts of an enemy's body were consumed after battle. This wasn't simply cruelty, it was a message. The message was, your strength is now mine. Your existence has ended completely. In the language of warfare, this was the most total form of defeat possible. Not just death, the complete erasure of existence. And here, an uncomfortable truth surfaces. Throughout human history, we didn't just learn to kill our enemy. We learned how to completely deny an enemy's existence. And that skill, somewhere, still lives within us, just in a different form. There's a deep process that operates in the human brain, which researchers call dehumanization, failing to see someone as human. This is what operated in ancient warriors before they consumed an enemy. It still operates today. Whenever we see someone as an enemy, someone different. The only difference is, today, we don't physically consume anyone. But mentally, every day we strip someone of their humanity, online, in politics, in arguments. The ancient ritual may have disappeared, but the psychology that made it possible has not. In 1846, a group of American migrants called the Donner Party got trapped in snow in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Months passed, food ran out, temperatures became lethal, and then those who survived did the thing humans believed they would never do. But here's the real question. Did this change who they were, or did it simply reveal what lies hidden within all of us once every layer of civilization is stripped away? Psychologists say every human has a limit. We assume that limit is far away. But when circumstances become severe enough, that limit turns out to be far closer than we ever imagined. In biology, cannibalism isn't unique to humans. It has been observed in nearly 1,500 species. Some spiders eat their mates. Some fish eat their own offspring when resources become scarce. In nature, it's often a solution, a brutal but effective method of population control, resource distribution, or reducing competition. So the question becomes even deeper. What we call humanity's greatest sin, is it actually just the human version of a perfectly natural natural biological rule? Have we built a layer of morality specifically so we don't have to see ourselves as part of nature? We want to believe there's a clear line between civilization and barbarism, but history has shown again and again that line is much thinner than we think. Famine arrives, war arrives, isolation arrives, and when they do, law, religion, morality, all of it can shatter like thin glass. The ancient humans who ate each other were not monsters. They were people just like us, who found themselves in circumstances we have never had to experience. And that is the most uncomfortable truth of all. The difference between them and us isn't intelligence. It isn't morality. The difference is simply circumstance. We love to think of history as something distant, a dark chapter of the past separated from us by countless ages. But that mutation still exists in our bodies. That same psychological process still operates in our brain, the one that once helped one human deny another's humanity. We've only changed the tool. Instead of teeth and bone, words, screens, borders. The question is no longer, how could they do that? The question is, under what circumstances could we? That bone, the one we started with, still sits today in a glass case in a museum. Visitors walk past it. Some pause, some take a photo. Then they move on and forget. But that bone carries a question that isn't easy to forget. We think we are civilized. We think that dark past is behind us. But civilization is not something achieved once and kept forever. It is a decision made every single day. And every generation, every person decides which side they will stand on. That bone doesn't ask us, who were they? It asks, who are we?